Hi everyone, my name is Sue. I'm the store manager here. Can I just by show of hands, how many of you have never been to Baker? I'm just curious. This is your first time. That's so awesome. I love that about events. It brings out people that we don't know that are new friends for us. So it's my privilege tonight to introduce Terri. And most of us know Terri as our morning meteorologist for so many years. And we have such a great love for her in that capacity. But some of us know her as mom, and some of her know us as family and Sunday school teacher and grandma even. But you know what? She has a new role now. She is Terri DeBoer, the author, which I'm very, very excited about. So God bless you, Terri. Thanks for coming in and speaking to us and signing your books. You're right here.
I'm so excited that all of you would come out and spend part of your Tuesday evening with us. It's very appropriate that the book launch is here at Baker because this book was conceived here at Baker Book House, literally. April of 2018. I was in the back room. Anybody recognize the lady in this picture? Candace Cameron, you're right, yeah. Was anybody at the event when Candace launched her book? I was here that night and had the opportunity to meet with her. And that night, meeting with her, I thought, I think I could do a book. And then fast forward, life goes by, and all of a sudden it's January of 2020. And I thought, I have this dream of writing a book, but I really don't know what to do. So that night when I met with Candace, I met a man named Tom Dean. Tom Dean was the vice president at a big publishing company. And so I reached out to Tom and said, hey, I've got this concept for a book. And he said, why don't we meet at Baker Book House for a cup of coffee? So we met at that green table right back there on January 29th of 2020. And I told him my concept for a book. And he said, I think you might have something there. So you have to do a book proposal. Now, a book proposal is a really fancy name for a 50-page research project where you outline what your book is going to be, what your concept is, who you think your market might be, who you are, and everything that possibly is already on the market about your book topic. And so a week later, I finished the book proposal and sent it to Tom. And just then, this was February 5th, 2020, we started to hear rumblings that the world was starting to shut down. And so we started to hear about the coronavirus, and their travel was being disrupted from other countries to the United States. And so Tom said, let's keep moving forward just to see if we can get a contract to do this book. So Tom reached out to David Morris, one of his partners at the time, and they invited me to come in and have a meeting mid-March of 2020 to talk about the book. And I received a contract to write the book and publish the book. And then the world literally did shut down. Everything was closed, even bookstores and restaurants and movie theaters and everything else. I still went to work every day, but I had a new job. In addition to doing the weather, I had a job to write a book and deliver a manuscript by 4th of July weekend of 2020. And so I worked through the process, and there's another man here I would like to introduce, and that is Andy Rogers. Andy? There he is in the back there. Andy was my editor on the project. And so Andy spent a month with my manuscript after I got the first draft done, sent it back to me the first week of August 2020, full speed ahead with the book, and all of a sudden the publishing world gets rocked by the coronavirus, and my contract was canceled for the book. So I had this huge dream, was living the dream, and then had a huge disappointment. And I said, well, there must be a different path for this book because I know that it's supposed to get out there. And so I circled back with Tom, who ended up finding me a brand new publisher, and together we worked on the book and the manuscript all the way into the beginning of 2021 and set the release date, November 9th, 2021 for the release of my first book. Brighter Skies Ahead, Forecasting a Full Life When You Empty the Nest. Now, that was not the original title of the book. The book originally was titled Forecasting a Full Life When You Empty the Nest, which is actually the subtitle. But if anybody knows anything about publishing, which I clearly did not at the time, because I don't know how many times, Andy, you and I had this argument over the phone about, Andy said, that can't be the title, that has to be the subtitle. And I said, but that's the title. I don't know what you want me to write because that is the title. And he said, that can't be the title. It was the working title. And so then finally, when we got pretty close to starting the official part of the publication process, he said, you really have to figure out what the title is. So then I circled back with another author friend of mine, Tracy Brogan, who is a highly accomplished fiction author, is sold, by the way, 3.5 million books, so she's legit the real deal. And we were brainstorming, and she said, how about you call it something like Sunny Skies or Sunny Skies Ahead? Or then she said, because everything's alphabetical order when it comes to publishing, how about something like Brighter Skies or Brighter Skies Ahead? I was like, I think that could be it. And so we circled back. I ran it past Andy, loved the title. Tom Dean loved the title of it. And so that's how the title of the book came to be. A couple other questions. People wondering, what about the cover? Who is that on the cover? I've got 2 daughters and a son. I've got a daughter-in-law. You know, Rachel Louise is here. Rachel, people have asked me if you are this person on the cover of this book. My daughter Jen, I think she might have had to go home to let her dog out. Is Jen the person? Is my daughter Jacqueline the person? No, actually, that was just a piece of cover art that we found, a stock photo. And I don't know what the woman's name is in this picture, but I can tell you exactly who she is. She's an independent, confident woman who is looking for her next adventure in life. And I felt like that's who I was as I was writing this book. And so I'm excited for you all to have a chance to finally read it. It's a little like a chicken soup for the soul book. It's 15 short chapters, so pretty easy to read. It's separated into 9 different sections, everything from taking a look at years gone by to physical health, to when you do finally empty the nest, those relationships we have with our adult kids. Some of them are easy, sometimes challenging. Even families that have multiple kids will find that different kids have different versions of how life was when they were growing up. And so at the end of the day, we all have our own versions of what our relationships are in life. The biggest part of this book is the 9th section, and that's the section on faith. Because what I have discovered is those quiet, empty hours in an empty nest are perfect for reconnecting and rediscovering my faith. And so I'd like to read to you a little bit from the beginning part of this book. And it starts out with a little bit of a story. A few years ago, country music star Brad Paisley recorded a song titled Letter to Me. It's a poignant song that takes the singer on a journey back to the time when he turned 17. In the song, Paisley recalls formative experiences that seemed like incredible obstacles, like the time he ran out of gas while on a date with a girl he really liked, or when he got a ticket for running a stop sign. The song also talked about a special aunt who died much too soon. It includes other regrets, like wishing he would have taken Spanish or a typing class. The song also foretells the future family of the woman he would meet, who would become the wife and mother of his children. the woman he didn't even meet until several years after he graduated from high school. That song became an anthem with people all over the world using it as an inspiration to write their own letter to their younger selves. A musical journey revealing the brevity of life and the hope and promise that comes as the future unfolds. If I could take a bit of poetic license with that concept, I would write a letter to myself the day I turned 26. It was the single worst birthday I had ever experienced. Finishing the day all alone in my one-bedroom apartment in the bathtub with a bottle of champagne. Even though I was enjoying professional success working as a television reporter, I was sad and lonely. I had just called off a wedding, my second failed engagement, and felt deep despair. I felt like a complete loser celebrating this birthday all alone. This birthday marched toward the big 3-0, and I was experiencing what psychologists refer to as unrealized expectations for my life. Little did I know the life that was waiting for me. I could have never imagined that within just a few short years, I would meet and marry the man of my dreams, complete a second college degree, and become a mother. I didn't know I would be hired away by my competitor to shift to a career path that would turn me into one of the most recognized and respected television personalities in West Michigan. My kids earned academic and athletic success at school with busy schedules and practices and activities and rehearsals and games and competitions, and so many of those days felt like life was in the middle of a hectic and incredible whirlwind. It was a journey, a great one. And now all of that is ending. As I enter this new season in life, I am moving through another time of extreme challenge. I have 2 married children, a grandson, and my youngest child has just graduated from college. I am experiencing the emptiness of that empty nest. And instead of a bottle of champagne in a bathtub, I found myself on the couch in my pajamas in the middle of the afternoon. Many of those emotions I felt in my mid-20s are resurfacing again. This time though, the despair is accompanied by grief, as I longingly look back at all of those busy and wonderful years packed full of exhausting activities and adventures. The chaos of the unending list of tasks seemed exhausting at the time, but looking back now seemed like a time of utopia. As often as I feel alone, I also realize that I have tons of company in this new season, this empty nest season, which has been referred to as, in terms of a midlife crisis or midlife malaise. And as I reflect on that 26-year-old in the bathtub, I realize too, this is just a temporary state. Life is about moving forward. For that woman in her mid-20s, moving forward involved going back to college, getting married, and starting a family. In this empty nest season, my new path includes writing this book, eventually starting a podcast, exploring new hobbies, and deepening my faith. This book is written to share with you 50 short essays designed to offer hope, encouragement, comfort, and a few laughs as you join me in the journey toward breaking out of that midlife state and moving toward your next adventure. I hope this book provides you with comfort, encouragement, and motivation, so you will join me by getting off that couch and taking action. And so the book has several really fun chapters, some that are very introspective, some that are designed to maybe challenge your thinking a little bit about what the emptiness season means. The chapter I had the most fun writing was one that I think most people will recall, a similar sounding book, What to Expect When You're Expecting to Empty the Nest. When you find out you're pregnant for the first time, What to Expect When You're Expecting is considered a must-read for every expectant mother. It's a week-by-week pregnancy guide written in 1984. The book, of course, a perennial top selling book on the New York Times bestseller list, and is considered a pregnancy Bible, covering everything from morning sickness and fatigue and stretch marks to moodiness and frequent urination. It's packed with all the information a pregnant woman would want to ask her sister, mother, best friend, or doctor. It's a week by week and month by month guide, and they have other books in this same line. What to expect the first year, what to expect the second year, what to expect the toddler years, what to expect and eating well when you're expecting. All of those under the same brand. But can you believe they don't have the book, What to Expect When You're Expecting to Empty the Nest? So I decided to help them out by writing my own version of that. The first month, when you empty the nest, weeks 1 and 2, your feelings are sadness, separation anxiety, and grief. Your behaviors, sudden crying, staring at family pictures for hours, lying in your child's bed, going to your child's closet, closing your eyes and smelling left behind clothing to get that familiar scent. Weeks 3 and 4, feelings, still sad. Also, loneliness and boredom creep in. Behaviors, changing into PJs during the day, lying on the couch watching Hallmark movies, drinking your favorite wine in the middle of the day, or eating a pint of ice cream. The second month, weeks 1 and 2, feelings, not as sad, missing the daily connection with child. Behaviors, trying to entice daily texting or phone calls with your child. Plan to meet for dinner. Weeks 3 and 4, feelings, not as sad. Boredom and loneliness take over as your feelings. Behaviors, discover YouTube and enjoy daily video marathons. 3rd and 4th months, you realize the holiday season is just around the corner. You get energized and start cleaning the house and organizing and decorating. Your feelings, excitement, energy, anticipation. Behaviors, plan Thanksgiving menu, enjoy Christmas shopping and wrapping the presents, tree decorating, plan menus, buy new games, stock up on everyone's favorite snacks and food. 5th month, asterisk, see first month. Week 1, sadness, separation, anxiety, grief returns for the second time. Behaviors, crying, hours spent looking at those holiday pictures, sitting on your child's bed. Week 2, boredom, loneliness. Behaviors, call friends to arrange activities, happy hours, movies, and shopping. Weeks 3 and 4, a bit more energetic. Behaviors, commit to a regular exercise routine. 6th through 9th month, adjusting to fewer commitments and a less rigid schedule. Feelings, freedom, flexibility. Behaviors, accept invitations to attend events and schedule appointments. 10th through 12th month, finishing the final months of that first year as an empty nester. Feelings, proud of adjusting to a new normal, anticipation for the future. Behaviors, setting long-term goals, plan a vacation, take a class, finish a degree. From the moment the plus sign shows up on the pregnancy test, new moms have many months to count down to the arrival of a new member of the family. They have months to prepare and plan for the new addition. Unfortunately, transitioning into an empty nest is much more abrupt. One day your child is at home and suddenly that child moves away. It might take you 10 or 12 months to adjust to your new normal, but just like with the birth of a child, it will come in its own time. So that was my favorite chapter to write and a fun one, but I think that just forced me to go on the journey of what were these different seasons and stages I went through as I emptied the nest. Does anyone have any questions? I want this to be interactive and engaging.
What about with your different, you had kids years apart?
Years apart, yes.
Okay, so.
Yeah, that was, and so my process of emptying the nest went over so many different years. It spanned, my oldest is 8 years older than my youngest. And my next one down is 6 grades older than my youngest. And so when my first 2 left for college, it was a difficult transition. I really missed them. They went pretty close to home. Jake went to Calvin. And so the first year of college, I said, I'm going to meet you once a week for coffee. And so that was pretty easy. We often met at the Big B right at the corner of Michigan and Fuller. And that was really a nice way to stay connected. When Jacqueline went to college, she went to Ferris, and again, I drove up once a week to either have lunch or coffee, and that kept me really connected. And then when Jen left for college, she just went to Grand Valley, but that was the point where the whole house, all of a sudden, all the activities, every day we had some kind of a commitment with her schedule, and when all of that ended, then that was the time when it really, really hit me.
What's something that has surprised you about this whole journey?
The journey of the book. I think what surprised me the most was how important a good editor is in the process. I always kind of fashioned myself as a pretty good writer, but to have someone who professionally can dig into a manuscript and really coach you on how to make the material more engaging and more impactful, that I think was the biggest part of the learning process for me. I also was really surprised at just the timeline. When you're on TV, you have a deadline. Every single hour is a deadline. And so we are all about just feeding, we call it feeding the beast, because you have this constant turnover of live television. And so in the publishing world, the fact that you sign a contract 1 year, and if you're really lucky, the book comes out the next year. And that's considered pretty fast in the publishing world. When the original contract was canceled and Tom went and started shopping the manuscript around to other publishing houses, the truth is COVID hit the publishing world really hard because authors couldn't tour, bookstores were closed, even though people were reading more than they ever had before. Just that whole production process became so much more challenging. Authors who were not known had a harder time getting connected and getting their messages to connect with people. And authors who were already accomplished had books that were literally printed and published in warehouses that were just ready to ship, but they couldn't do any of those normal activities to promote them. And so even if, there were some other publishers that might have been interested in a normal season of my book, but weren't because of how backlogged things were because of COVID. So yeah, I was very happy to go through the process. I think I believe that God's timing is perfect, and so this was the right time for me to do this book, and this was the right path for me to do this book. If there were many blessings that having the world shut down gave to me, part of that was I had limited distractions. What were we all doing last year? We were doing a whole lot of nothing. We were binge watching Netflix or YouTube, and my workflow for the book, because again, it was my very first time to ever even attempt to write a book. I would go on long walks, and I would listen to podcasts or books on tape, or I would just think, and that really inspired me to move forward with the manuscript. When I sort of thought about how do you write a whole book, well, I was a believer that you do things kind of one chunk at a time. And so originally I thought, I'm going to do 25 chapters, and then that'll be easier, great way to divide it. And then as I started thinking about what kinds of topics I would cover in the book, it just kind of kept growing. And so then it was 30 chapters, and then it was 35 chapters, and then I figured that 50 was a pretty good number. And so then to organize 50 chapters, I came up with 9 different sort of subject headers. And so each of those 9 sections has multiple chapters. There's everything from, you know, your actual nest, where you decide to physically live, to, you know, when your kids get married, and then eventually when you get to become a grandparent, which is also a chapter in the book. The Agars. I want a round of applause to Johnny and Becky Agar here, also Tom's client.
I think one of the most beautiful things about this book is that you are going through the empty nest, so it's a beautiful gift for other women to, or parents who go through this, because, you know, you're a very independent woman and you have a beautiful career, and you automatically think that that wouldn't happen to you, but it did. So my question is, when Jen left, did you, did it all of a sudden hit you? Was it a gradual process? And number 2, then did you go to research? Did you do your own research to find out what was happening to you, or did you know it was empty nest already? You know, can you kind of walk through that whole process?
Yeah, and thanks, Becky, for asking that question, because it was interesting that I was not expecting to feel the way I did when Jen left for college. I was, it really just hit me like a ton of bricks. And I have a career that I love, and I'm still married to my same husband that I've had for all these years. And I felt like, what is wrong with me? I've got this great, successful, happy life, and someone on the outside looking in would think, what do you have to be sad about? But I just felt this sadness, and it wasn't like a normal sadness. It was a combination of grief and loneliness and sometimes guilt. You know, there would be days I would sit there and think, oh, why didn't I take advantage of every opportunity when they were here? Why didn't I make better meals? And why didn't I have a cleaner house? And, you know, all those things that if you allow your mind, it will play tricks on you. And so I just felt really, really grief-filled, and I was not expecting that. And so I did start then to look for books to read. And so as I started reading other books about the empty nest, I felt that they were filled with, they didn't have a great action plan, you know, a great strategy. It spoke to the, yeah, this is really sad, you really miss this is a season, but it wasn't about what's next and what are the opportunities that are waiting for you. And how can you spend this time now that you have in front of you doing something that will bring you joy and hope and peace and purpose in your next season of life? I started the book writing a letter to myself when I was 26. And, you know, in the world of weather, we keep track of climate statistics on a 30-year stretch. And so that was exactly 30 years ago. I will be 57 in just a couple of weeks, so I'm 56 now. So I wrote that letter to myself 30 years ago. And the book ends with me writing a letter to myself at age 86. Because I have another whole season in my life. And what do I hope that my 86-year-old self will think? And what will she have accomplished? Because I barely could recognize that woman in the bathtub in my 20s. And now I think how I feel, I know that I've got a great opportunity to do some really cool things in the years and the decades to come. But I can only do it if I take the first step. It was when I emailed Tom to set up the meeting back in January of 2020 to meet here. I had this habit of, I would get really fired up and I really, really want to do something. And then I would sit and craft an email and then not send it. And so I crafted this email and I sent it to him, and immediately I felt like I want to take it back, but I'm not technologically savvy enough to know how to take it back. And then he replied right away. I thought, well, maybe it's going to go to his junk folder or to the spam. He replied, and we sat here, and it was, it's been a journey.
Did you have any friends or relatives that went through the empty nest syndrome and you almost thought, hey, that's not gonna happen to me, so you were surprised by it, or were you almost thinking, I'm not gonna have to worry about that, it's not gonna hit me?
I did, and I mean, not only did I have watch other people go through the empty nest season and think, oh, I have this career, I have this great job, and I had watched TV shows about it, you know, it's kind of a mockery of what it is, and so I was, you know, that also contributed to me being so caught off guard by just the depth of how it impacted me. You know, then we go through COVID, and then, you know, all these kids are moving back home. And I had a good friend who said something to the effect of, I wish I could miss you. I don't think I'm ever gonna get a chance to be an empty nester. Yeah, Rachel?
Terry, what was your family's reaction to you writing the book and then reading the final copy? And do you think that they would have ever known how you and fully understood how you felt had you not done it?
So I'm not sure they completely read it 100%. They were a little, they weren't really sure when I said I was writing a book about the empty nest. I'm not sure. I think they maybe thought it was a memoir, which this is not at all. And they asked if they were in the book, and I said, you're sort of in the book because your character's in my life, but the book's not really about you. And then they said, is it about you? And I said, well, it sort of is about me because I'm also a character in my life, but it's not really like that. It's more of a guidebook and help book. So I do think that they have gotten great perspective about what, you know, just what that challenging part of my life was. And one of the other things, there's a chapter in there that is probably my second favorite chapter, called An Empty Nest Carol, and it takes it's a takeoff on A Christmas Carol. But the Tiny Tim in my version is actually my mom. When I left home, because the as I started to read books written by empty nesters, there were it seems like the perspective is, my kids are leaving, why are my kids leaving, why are my kids leaving? And so I felt like it was important for me to go back in time to when I left home and try to reconnect with my feelings. I honestly, I don't think I even gave two thoughts about what my parents were going through. I wasn't going away from them, I was going toward what my future was. And in writing that chapter, it really allowed me to reconnect with, you know, what is it that is the mindset of my kids, you know, because the reality is the better, sort of the more effective we are parents in raising our kids to be independent and self-reliant, then they're probably going to leave. And you want that for them. You pray that for them. You know, you have little ones at home that your prayer is, I pray that you will find God's purpose in your life and that you will seek him and listen for what is his call for you to do in this world, and that you will prepare yourself and develop yourself so that you can go and make your own path. And the better of a job we do at that, the more likely we're going to be left at home, laying on their bed, smelling their clothes. It's just this weird twist.
Interested your husband's perspective and if he thought differently about empty nest and being left out.
Yeah, okay, well, yeah, he actually isn't in the book.
I understand the dog replaced him.
Yes, yeah, the dog, yes. So the original book had a chapter about your relationship with your significant other. And I really I really thought that that was a great, because we found really, we have a lot of common interests. We like to golf together. We have found it really nice to binge watch YouTube and Netflix series, which is, you know, they better start coming up with some more seasons of things, or we're gonna have nothing to do during the winter. But so originally I had kind of this really fun chapter about, oh, you know, find hobbies together and take walks, do ballroom dancing. And then when I got the original manuscript back from Andy, the editor, there was all this red in there. And he said, you can't really, people have different experiences. You know, there are people who have lost their spouse. There are people who have had a death in the family. There will be people reading this who were never married, who were divorced, who are in marriages that aren't quite so happy and feeling so connected. He said, this is a complicated season in life for people in terms of that marital relationship. And so he said, you're gonna have to really go back to the drawing board on this chapter. Like, well, it's 50 chapters and the book is only like a couple hundred pages long, so I can't really have 16 pages in that chapter. And so just about the time I was wrestling around with that, my daughter Jen, who was living in an apartment downtown, decided to get a dog. We had never been a dog family. And so she had called me on the phone, hey, I think I'm gonna get a dog. I said, I think that's a terrible idea. And she said, well, I don't live with you. And I said, okay, well, so she showed up with this dog because she wanted me to name this dog Hank, this is the dog's name. So, but of course, even though she's an independent adult, college graduate, living on her own downtown, hey mom, she's in a master's program. Hey mom, I've got class. Can you stop by my apartment and let Hank out? Can you take Hank for a walk? Okay, so here's where the story is going. I have fallen in love with this dog.
My grand dog.
My grand dog, exactly. Yes.
Exactly what happens.
So then so as I'm going through and making these edits, all of a sudden I have this book that's 50 chapters. And I think, I gotta get Hank in this book, because I mean, if you're all alone in an empty nest, what better thing to do than adopt a dog, right? And that's why Jen got the dog in the first place, because she was feeling alone and she really wanted some companionship. So I was wrestling around and looking, I printed out the manuscript with all Andy's edits on it and all the red kept on this chapter. Like, so finally I came back and I said, honey, how would you feel? I think you're out of the book. So there is no mention of a relationship with a significant other in the book. And that's why this woman is all by herself on the front of the book, because she's experiencing life. So yes, so I think Bill thinks it's funny. He thinks it's just hilarious. Well, and I do want to write the book. So the stories in the book and the book really does speak to men and women. A lot of issues are the same. The book obviously is more tailored for women with the cover. I would like to have someone co-author Dad's version of this book. I've had a chance to circle back with some friends of mine who were former coaches of my kids, and their kids are gone now, and they, you know, I think there's a Dad's book that would have obviously a very different cover and some different stories in there, but it's on my heart. I really think that this could be a good book for dads too. And somebody said, why doesn't your husband write them? I'm like, because he didn't care when they left. I guess it could be, I mean, it could be a mini ebook that would be about 2.5 pages long. When do I stop paying for your cell phone bill? Chapter 1. Chapter 2, will you give the credit card back? Chapter 3, you got your own auto insurance, great.
Yes.
So an important question is, when you wrote the 50
Actually, yeah, because when the contract fell apart with the first publisher, I got all the rights reverted back, including a professionally edited manuscript, which was a gift given back to me. So that was definitely a huge gift. So yeah, we had to tweak things and modified it a little bit, and it was just it's been an interesting journey. You know, so so many businesses and industries have really had to shift and change how they do things through COVID. And, you know, broadcasting is one that's had a lot of challenges. I know retail has been so, really, the way that business is done has been so upended. And that's why I'm so grateful to Sue and the team here at Baker for agreeing to allow me to launch the book here. Sue has been a huge supporter. I have the book and then a companion journal. In fact, I intended to do the journal next year in 2022. And when I dropped off the first an advanced copy of the book to Sue, she said, you know, if you could get the journal done, it would be a really nice companion piece that could be a very nice gift set for the holidays. And so we were able to get a contract to do the journal and have them come out at the same time. And this was really also a whole lot of fun to write.
So I've heard some really good themes here about getting in touch with your feelings again. And that I think speaks to all of us, no matter what stage we're at, about sense of possibility of life going forward. So that's sort of like your underlying message, part of it anyway. How do you plan to get the word out about this book, and how can we help you?
Well, thank you, David Morris. Also one of the early believers, Tom and David helped make this book. They're the first people thanked in the author gratitude page. Well, I have been doing a lot on social media, a lot of radio shows, our show, and speaking at churches. If you have a women's group or a church group, adult ed, really excited to bring the message of the book into a teaching environment in a church and conferences, any of those sorts of things. I do think the messages are really universal in the book. You know, I have always believed, as someone who has been a meteorologist for almost 30 years, I've always believed that life so much mirrors the weather, that our life unfolds in a series of seasons. And we have, as Andy helped me put in the book, you know, we have our growing up season. We have the season where we're a young adult. We have the season when we're just starting our family and getting into kind of the juggling act, which is, you know, really how life gets filled through those chaotic 20, 30, sometimes 40 years when your kids are at home. And it's that next season, the empty nest season, that is the one that can also be filled with more possibilities if you just understand what is the gift of that time. I think for parents, you know, when we have our first child, we go from being, even if you're married, you go from being very me focused to focusing your attention and your devotion on others. It's so interesting how it happens. And so you go through this whole series of decades in your life raising your child or your children, and you are just so focused on them. Your first thought of the day, your last thought of the night is a prayer about your children, that they're happy and safe and healthy and protected. And then when you enter this empty nest season, you still love and care for your family members, but you really almost are forced to go back to being me-centered again. What is the future for me? And you don't do that. I don't approach that in a selfish way. I look at that as a way, how can God use me? What are the gifts and talents and opportunities and resources that I have that I can now develop and focus on others? because we all have a very limited amount of time on this earth. And if we squander a season, then we have not delivered our full potential. And so I look at the empty nest season really as the preparation for a new opportunity. And I'm excited that for me, I had always wanted to write a book. I love the creative process of this book. I love now getting out to share it with other people. And I've kind of been bitten a little bit by the bug and feeling like I can help other people develop their book project. Because there are research studies that say about 85% of Americans want to write a book. I don't know if any of you are in that camp here in this room, but odds are that you probably have about 100 people here, probably at least 80 of you would like to do a book at some point. And now that I figured out sort of, I think, a good system to do it, I would love to help other people develop a book with them now.
I find myself kind of living your life in a different body. I think listening to everything that you're saying is exactly what I've been living in my last year. And my son is 11 years younger than my oldest daughter, and he graduated in 2020, which was the year that COVID just really wrecked the senior class in a lot of schools. And right after he graduated, he said, "Mom, I want to move to Seattle." So, you know, it was hard enough that he was going to stay home and go to CC, which I was excited. My last child's going to go to CC and stay home. And then he says he's moving across the country. And so for me, it's been a really, really rough year. Just, I found myself first and foremost thinking, I've spent my entire life raising kids and now we're gone.
Right.
And did I do a good enough job? You know, that's what I've really struggled with the most is, did I do a good enough job? Will they appreciate how much effort I put into mothering for the last, 29 years? And so I felt the same way. Just, you go through that thought, like I was choking. I literally, for the first time in my life, sought counseling because I was just literally sinking. And that's, she told me straight up, you have no idea what a grieving process letting your children go is. And I never really thought about it that way, because you don't feel sorry for yourself. You feel happy for what they have come to.
Right.
The same thing, you've done all this work on them for their whole life, and you've not wanted anything more for them to be happy,
Right. And when that's the, that's interesting that you would say that there's a chapter in there about grief, because, I think what COVID taught all of us, or at least brought it to the forefront for all of us, is that, grief is not just about death. We associate it that way, but grief can be when you've lost something, when you've lost an experience, an opportunity, graduation. I mean, I think of this whole, the last 2 years for our kids and everything they lost, from the kids that, were supposed to be in plays and concerts and band and sporting activities and graduations. And you think of everything that has been lost for them. And so I have a son and daughter-in-law in Seattle too. It's like, it's so expensive to fly there. It is the worst place. I'm sorry. I mean, it is a beautiful place, but it is the worst place. If you want to try to find, just try to find an affordable airline ticket. We just spent $1,800 for Jacob and Taylor to fly for 3 days at Thanksgiving so that we can be together as a family. That is crazy. So I'm with you on the Seattle. But so, and I think my encouragement to you is that, it's so hard as a mom to start thinking about what's next for me. And I really think that you, like me, have to do that.
it's been a complete year of self-care. I mean, that's what I got from all of it was, it's your year to do for you now. And, you know, I can't wait to read your book just for my feel good moment, because I think it's just going to really help. But my question to you is do you feel like writing the book was therapeutic for you to get through your feelings?
It was very helpful because it allowed me to, the way I divided up all the different subjects and all the different categories really gave me a fresh perspective. It wasn't all of a sudden just it's all or none. I wasn't just one single, it wasn't just one silo of feelings. It was all of these different experiences, looking back, looking forward, and that was to me really, really liberating. Also, as I was researching, I discovered there are all these Facebook groups for empty nesters. And so there's a chapter in there called Social Nestworking, where it's these women who started these social media groups, and you go on there, I'll go on there and read through them, and you can spot the stage that someone is in, going through the process. And you'll read back through months of posts, and you'll see just someone transform in what they're posting about, and just their excitement and enthusiasm. They go from being just, I can't believe my daughter's moving away and I'm never going to see her again, to, you know, 6 months later, this same person is counseling somebody else. And it's just just how it's so grassroots, and how it has come to be is really, really cool and inspiring.